When you've covered the SEC and Georgia and places like that as long as I have, you kind of get used to the stupidity that is the way the schools act sometimes. I'm not sure we've seen a lot like this though in the last 2 decades. Georgia's one of Georgia's biggest rivals, Auburn, is fighting itself tooth and nail in a circular gunfight about the future of its head coach, Brian Harsin. And Cole Kubrick, who has an understanding of that program, tweeted out this morning that he says exactly, I believe that Brian Harsin will be retained as the Auburn head football coach. Alignment will be critical moving forward. Adjustments from all sides will be necessary. I have a few comments about this. They're not directed at Cole. But first, I want to make sure that you're getting DAWGSTRUCTION. It's right down below. It's a great look at the 2021 Georgia National Championship season. Get it. It is a great book for you and your Bulldog buddies. It's going to be a fun read. Alignment will be critical moving forward. Adjustments from all sides will be necessary. I'm assuming that's a sort of editorial comment from Cole. I think the problem at Auburn over the years, as we've seen since Pat Dye, is that doesn't happen. Alignment will be critical moving forward. They're never aligned at Auburn. I mean, it's just not something that's in the blood there. It is as close to as dysfunctional a place as there is in college athletics. It just doesn't exist at Auburn. Adjustments from all sides will be necessary. Well, Brian Harsin certainly needs to adjust. There's plenty of stuff he needs to do in order to become a winning football coach in the SEC. But the boosters are not going to change. I mean, we're talking about folks who are in their 60s and beyond. They're not changing, and this is their toy. Georgia doesn't have this problem. For all of the uh, criticism through the years of high level boosters at Georgia, it's not like this. I mean, there's no one person, there's no group of five people. That's not really the way that it works at Georgia, and really never has. I'm not aware that it works that way at Florida, but at Auburn it does, and it's problematic there, and it's been that way for a long time. That there's a cabal, if you want to call it that. There's a group of boosters at Auburn. There's a group of folks that are listened to that are making decisions that are swift. I mean, first of all, let me start from the beginning here. The athletic director is in over his head. Brian Harsin is in over his head. There's now a new president at Auburn, and we'll just see how that goes. But clearly, the athletic director is about to get run out of town. Brian Harsin could still get run out of town. But this is exactly, this really should be taught in business school. This should be taught in whatever school there is for athletic directors and I guess caretakers of institutions, people like the Board of Regents at Georgia. This is exactly how you don't run an organization. Um, Backstabbing, infighting, key employees not feeling like they have what they need to go. The ramifications for this for Auburn could be years, if not, further than that. Hiring the right football coach or avoiding hiring the wrong one is step one in having a successful athletic department. You can survive without hiring the right basketball coach. Georgia has done that since the 2000s. You cannot survive without hiring a coach that fits your values as an organization. Auburn continues to screw this up. And a lot of people watching this are getting joy from that. And I, that's fine, whatever. My point is, and Tennessee has done the same thing. Tennessee, since the departure of Phil Fulmer, has hired the person that is not the right fit for their school. The one exception to that, I would say, is Butch Jones, the person who had the most criticism of all of them. Jeremy Pruitt has no business being a head football coach, and they hired him. He has no business being a head football coach. He doesn't understand how to cultivate relationships, You can't raise money with that guy. See, everybody thinks that, and the criticism of Brian Harson is, from what you hear, he just wants to coach football. No, bro, that's not what it is, man. You can't do that anymore. That is gone. You're running a multi-million dollar, scores of millions of dollars organization. You know, you are going to have to rub people the right way. And I'm not just talking about the players. That's a problem at Auburn too. But the problem at Auburn, Tennessee, Florida State, they've hired the wrong people, and it really has been a detrimental thing for them as athletic departments. You know, Arkansas made a mistake hiring Chad Morris, who I guess doesn't really belong being a head coach, but they got him out of there and hired a fit for their organization, which is Sam Pittman. We've seen with Sam, even with a losing season, I should say, that he is a fit for what Arkansas wants to do. Auburn had a fit. It was working, and they ran Tommy Tuberville out of there. I don't know that it was working with Gus, but it wasn't a smoldering train wreck. It was an 8-5 program, which Auburn might have to come to terms with. That's what they may be for the next 10 years if they don't get the right person. They don't have the resources that Georgia and Bama have. If they did, they wouldn't be in debt as an athletic department. They don't have the resources in terms of players because Georgia and Alabama are both at the apex of what you can be in college football, and nobody wants to go to Auburn, comparatively speaking. So that's the problem here. Auburn has been successful traditionally when either Georgia or Alabama are weaker. We're seeing both of them being very strong right now. That's bad for Auburn. That's bad for Florida State. It's bad for Tennessee, too. And it's no coincidence that those programs have had jarring decades lately. Now, what will this mean for the future of Auburn? If they keep Brian Harsin as their head coach, they're in a no-win situation right here. If they keep Brian Harsin as their head coach, players will continue to transfer. Their athletic department will slowly see the edges of Jordan Hare, or I don't care how you say it, stadium. The edges of the seats up there, they won't be filled. People are going to start giving up. Um, when we went to Auburn in October for the Georgia game, it was only a few weeks after they had nearly lost to Georgia State. They survived, I believe it was, against LSU, or they lost. I can't remember, but I think they won that game. But there was still optimism. This guy's going to figure it out. And then when you talk with people you've known for a really long time at Auburn after the game, and they weren't surprised Georgia won the football game. Their concern was more, hey, this guy doesn't get it, you know? So I think in the long term, this could be a real problem for Auburn. But they've already lit the fuse. This thing is gonna blow up. You think this is gonna recover? It's not. It's just, it doesn't happen. Okay, you don't break up after the third date and then have a successful marriage. It just doesn't happen. So this is over. The question is when. Could it be 2023? Could it be 2022? Could it be 2024? I don't know. But the athletic director is out. He's on the way out. They're going to let his contract, snuff out, and then they'll do this guy. They will never trust an athletic director to make a hire again over there. They didn't trust it to begin with. It's a dysfunctional place. Every place has its form of dysfunction. Georgia, for an extended period of time, has its own form of stupidity, but nothing compares to this. And Auburn's second cousin, Clemson, they're not so far from this too. Their difference is they've been winning at football. The question is what happens when you don't. So when you didn't win at a big way at Georgia in football, you didn't have total chaos until Jeremy Pruitt showed up. Okay. So that's what you want to avoid. If you can just avoid total chaos, you can develop a program that people will get after. Look at Kentucky, get behind, I should say. Look at Kentucky. There was no real dysfunction there. There hasn't been for some time. They're having success for what they are. That's what Auburn should be trying to do. They should be trying to have success for what they are. Georgia has gone past Auburn in a major way, in a way that even I didn't think was kind of possible. But, you look back at these last decade and a half, it's bad, man. It's bad. It's been bad for Auburn, and they won a national championship in that time. You know, that's the crazy thing is to get dominated by Auburn, excuse me, by Alabama, to get dominated by Georgia, and you won a national championship in that time. It just shows that you don't have to have that you can get it right in one particular season. But Auburn, honestly, has been an 8-5 program for the bulk of this century. When they had Tuberville, it was better than that. But that's basically what they've been. Georgia's basically been a 10-3 program. Auburn's been 8-5. So the difference is Auburn is getting closer to 7-6, and Georgia's getting close to 11-2 than what I just mentioned. I think this has long-term effects on Auburn, and that's good for Georgia. But I got to tell you, just as someone who watches organizations, Auburn they got to get out of their own way, and they're not going to because that's in their blood. That's what it is. I write about the Auburn game and DAWGSTRUCTION. Make sure you're picking that up today. Thanks to everybody, the thousands of people who are ordering it and have ordered it. We're going to get it out to you in late February or early March. Thanks for everybody for watching. We'll see you on the website.